Welcome to Hello Divorce. My name is Erin Levine. I am the CEO and founder of Hello Divorce. And if you didn't already know, I'm also a certified family law specialist in California divorce law. So I originally started with my own law firm. I saw that divorce was way too combative and expensive and messy and took way too long. So I pivoted over to our justice technology company, Hello Divorce, and that's where you landed as well. So I know that you are getting ready to do your divorce, and I just wanted to give you some pointers and tips about what the California divorce law is. This is going to be way general. If you need additional information, you can get that from your mediator, from the resources on our site, or if your plan includes time with a lawyer, you can also seek information there. But a lot of people have told me that in addition to doing the steps of divorce, they wanted to understand a little bit about law as they go into negotiations with their spouse. So that is what this is. I hope it's helpful. I'm totally open to feedback or questions, so don't hesitate to contact me after you review. My goals of this quick video is that you understand the basic divorce laws and that you are from there able to build your divorce plan and strategy. So what is divorce? Well, you know what it is. From an emotional standpoint, no one gets married expecting that they'll get divorced, but it happens, and it probably took you quite a while to get here. So first off, congratulations, because that's a big deal. Making that decision or having it made for you and now being able to sort of grasp it and step into that next step so that you can move on is major. So there are several legal issues. There's property and debt division. There's child support and child custody if you have kids, and then there's spousal support, whether there will be any spousal support and how much it will be and for how long. But I want to take a step back for a second and talk to you about the legal process. So there's procedure and there's substance. The procedure is the forms that need to get done in a particular order, filed, processed with the court, and then served on your spouse. And that we've broken down into 3 steps: the petition and the response. Not everyone files a response, especially if you're working towards an agreement or you have one. It will go much quicker if there's not a response. Step 2 are the financial disclosures, and they are mandatory even if you have a full agreement. And step 3 is the divorce judgment and agreement, which is an entire package of documents. Now, regardless of what level of services you've chosen to use, we make the procedural aspects of divorce a lot easier. So you're either going to have a legal assistant prepare them for you, or depending on your plan, you'll be working through the steps one by one by following online guided interviews that will populate your forms and then tell you what to do next. So again, procedure, all the forms and stuff that we package up for you, and then the substance, which is coming to an agreement on all divorce-related issues. So you may be negotiating directly with your spouse or with the help of a legal coach or certified divorce financial analyst, and or you may be mediating. So if you are a cooperative divorce member, both you and your spouse will be working with a mediator on all this stuff to wrap it up so that we can put it in your final divorce judgment and agreement. Property division includes everything from the toaster to your pet. That's right. In most circumstances, California treats pets as property for better or worse. To your bank accounts, if you have a 401k or any sort of retirement account, if you have employee stock benefits or other incentives, all this stuff is property, even your house. And so you guys can decide to divide or equalize or maybe hang on to it together however you want, but just a basic explanation of the law. And again, you can decide exactly what you want to do. But if you want some legal guidance, here's what the law says. The law says any income or any assets that were accrued during the marriage and before separation is community, meaning joint, except if it was by a separate property source, like an inheritance or a gift. So anything you had before marriage is separate. Anything you got after separation, including income, is separate for the most part. And everything that you accrue during the marriage is joint for the most part, unless there's a separate property source or you had a prenuptial agreement or some other type of agreement that is either enforceable or that you both think is fair. So when you hear the terms community versus separate, community refers to joint, separate means your own. It's not always particularly easy, in that sometimes you might start with a separate property asset that becomes partially community. Like if you had a house before the marriage and then both of you used your community earnings, your income, to pay down the mortgage. In that case, your spouse might have an interest in the property. So the good news is that there are resources on our site to help you. You can also come to whatever agreement it is that you guys think is fair, or we can bring in a certified divorce financial analyst who can do an actual valuation of the community versus separate property interests. None of this has to happen overnight, and none of it has to be decided in the moment, but these are the kind of things that you want to think about if you have a pretty significant estate. With retirement accounts, if you decide that you want to divide the community interest, you'll have to do what's called a QDRO, a QDRO. So ask us about that. It's in addition to your divorce judgment. The good news is with the QDRO, there are no tax implications, and they will do the math for you to determine what the respective interests are, so you don't have to. If you have kids, we also have to decide about child support and child custody. So a lot of our subscribers leave the child custody piece kind of flexible because they tend to get along quite well. But one thing I want to caution you about is as time goes on, your kids get bigger, you maybe have new partners and other people coming in and out of your life. Sometimes that can create conflict, even when that's not the intention. So if that's the case, then you might want to think about having a clearer child custody schedule, co-parenting schedule, shared parenting schedule. So if you're working with a mediator, we'll help you with this. If not, we have an incredible worksheet for shared parenting. Take a look at that. The legal goal of the state is for children to spend time with both parents. That doesn't necessarily mean 50-50. So I want you to think about what is best for your kids. For physical custody, what makes the most sense depending on their ages, whether they have special needs, whether one parent has an addiction. Think about it, because custody can change. But right now we want to do what's best for our kids so that they recover well from this divorce, that they move on. Most kids are super resilient, but it is challenging. So we want to offer them the best opportunity to succeed. Legal custody has to do with health and wellness. So what school the children will go to, whether or not both parents have access to medical records, that kind of thing. Usually it's joint legal custody. If you have a reason to do something different, that's fine. If you want a referral to a co-parenting counselor, that can be helpful too. But you will definitely want to think about things like, what's the default schedule? If we can't agree or something comes up, what's the schedule going to be for our kids to give them some certainty and you a life too? And what will vacation planning look like? As far as child support, a lot of our subscribers do want to do that a lot more informally, let's say, or maybe not at all. The California law requires that we at least consider it. that we at least talk about child support. And then if you decide to reserve it, you can't really waive it, but reserve it, set it at $0, you can. But you just need to make sure that we do it properly, which is exactly what our software and our legal assistants are set up to be able to help you with. But the goal is to try to minimize the disparity between the living standards in each household, not equalize it. That's kind of impossible, but just make it a little bit easier on the supported parent. So we do have a child support calculator on our site. It's really, unfortunately, at this point meant for one child. We are working on it to make it more comprehensive, but your membership, no matter what level it is, includes a child support calculation. So if you have any questions about that, please don't hesitate to ask us through our chatbot, to email your legal assistant, your mediator, or me at erin@hellodivorce.com. This is the software that the state currently certifies. We're working on getting ours certified too, because it's a lot more user-friendly. This one is meant for lawyers to use. But basically, for child support, the two most important factors are, when we're calculating it, are what is the timeshare between the parents and the children? How often are each child spending with each parent, and what the respective wages are and income is from the parents. And this is income from all sources. And then we put it in this calculation. It spits out a number that is presumptively correct, but of course you guys can agree to something else that takes into other factors that maybe the calculation doesn't, like debt or a new partner who's helping with expenses or whatever it might be. This is also the calculator that we use for spousal support, temporary spousal support. That's the spousal support that's sometimes paid between separation and your divorce judgment being finalized. I'll get to that in a minute. If you want to run the calculation on your own, you can you can download the Dissomaster on an iPad if you have one. It's not the full version, but it will be helpful to get a sense for what we're looking at. You can go to the Department of Child Support Services website too. They have a calculator, not totally user-friendly, but helpful. We're really working on duplicating this software by using the formula for child support that's in the actual statute so that it is as user-friendly as possible. And I will update you as soon as we have it available for you. So something about child support that I want to remind you is that it's mandatory that you consider it. It's not mandatory that you go with the number in the calculator. I also want you to consider add-on expenses. These are, things like extracurricular expenses, medical expenses that aren't going to be covered by insurance, childcare that's related to one or both of you working. That is usually shared. But it's certainly something that I want you to consider when you're talking about an issue that needs to be agreed upon. Now, spousal support is a little bit tricky in that we don't have great guidelines for the amount. And so when we talk about temporary spousal support, that is based on a guideline. There's a calculator. It's pretty easy. If you guys can't come to an agreement on your own, we look at 40% of the net income of the payor spouse minus 50% of the net income of the payee. So we're also adjusting for tax consequences. If that sounds confusing, it is. Ask us to do a calculation and we will. But usually, most of the people that we work with are trying to have an amicable divorce. So temporary spousal support is often a non-issue because you guys have already decided how you'll split expenses pending your divorce. But post-divorce spousal support, we call that more permanent spousal support. Now, Let me tell you, it doesn't have to be permanent. It usually isn't. It often ends when the payor spouse retires or turns 65, whichever comes second. But if you have a long-term marriage, especially, and you have a real disparity in income between spouses, spousal support might be something that you need to consider. So I highly recommend you check out the resources on our site. I also want to remind you that as of 2019, I believe, spousal support is not taxable. So the payee gets it and doesn't have to pay taxes on it. The payor doesn't get it as a write-off for tax purposes. So consider that. And finally, I just want to remind you that our goal is to get you through this divorce as affordably and as transparent and as easily and quickly as possible. But it isn't an event. It certainly is a process, and it sometimes does take some time unless you already have a full agreement and we can just sort of cruise through the paperwork. But even that paperwork, you're going to want to review because you're dissolving a marital contract. It's a pretty big deal, and you want to make sure that everything looks and feels right. So these are just some of the great worksheets and checklists that I think are probably best suited for you. The Ultimate Marital Settlement Agreement checklist is great because it has a list of the terms that you'll want to consider when you are working out an agreement. Of course, we have checklists on the forms you need and all the procedural stuff, but most of you will be having us help you through that anyhow. But if you need it, it's on the site. Check out our parenting plan worksheet. We have also more detailed resources in light of COVID-19 and some of the new terms we've thought about that you might want to think about adding to your judgment. We have lots of resources on mediation. So if you're starting that, it's a good idea to check it out. And of course, I'm always talking about wellness for both guys and gals. Super important to prioritize you because it's really hard to do, especially now. But I just want you to be reminded that you can't help anyone unless you are taking care of you. So if our self-care worksheet or goal setting for after divorce is helpful, then that would be awesome. If not, and you need more comprehensive resources, definitely let us know. So, and as a reminder, you can always find us at hellodivorce.com. We have a ton of great resources. You know how to contact your legal assistant. You know how to contact your mediator by this point. The website's always open to you to ask questions. If you do need more comprehensive legal representation, we do offer that in California via our law firm, Levine Family Law Group. But so far, I'd say 95 to 97% of the people who have used Hello Divorce have been able to get through their divorce start to finish. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I wish you the absolute best. And if I don't talk to you personally, I know you'll have a wonderful experience with our team, and all the best to you and yours.